I'm wanting to share this nutshell of a really powerful story called Tea with Mara. So, back in the day, when the Buddha was trying really hard to figure out his enlightenment, which I'm sure takes a lot of concentration, he kept getting really distracted and thrown off. Mara, a demon called Mara, was a big culprit of this. And while the Buddha is trying to focus and concentrate, Mara kept coming in different forms, in different personifications and disguises and voices to throw him off and to try to pull him this way or that. And Mara, he would show up as beautiful women trying to entice and lust the Buddha in one direction. Or he'd be like, yo, there's this raging party down the street. Come and get down with us. And, the Buddha's just trying to stay centered and continuing almost to get pulled off and having to come back into center. Mara would also come with the voices of like, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are to be doing this? You think you're better than everyone. And it would also come with different types of negative self-talk of like, there's no way that you can ever do this. This is impossible. And, you can just imagine. So trying all the different things to knock him off balance. Well, the Buddha had an assistant named Ananda. So while the Buddha was doing his thing, Ananda was kind of around the perimeter, kind of keeping watch out. So he would say like, Buddha, Mara's on the way. Oh my gosh, what should we do? What should we do? At some point, should we run? Should we fight? Should we, call our posse and try to do whatever to block them? Like, what are all the ways should we do? Should we ignore it? So they try all these different methods and none of them work. And then eventually Ananda was like, Buddha, here he comes again. Mara's on his way he's looking really strong. And, the Buddha decides, you know what? Invite him in for tea. And this was a powerful pivot. Because what he was saying is eventually allowing. Like, I cannot fight you. I cannot beat you. I cannot run from you. I cannot ignore you. So come in, sit down, have some tea. This is so powerful. Because what I think other humans do, what I hear other humans do as well, is that when we have these parts of us that come up, our internal Mara is really a personification for our mind, for our wily mind that comes up with all of these different reasons of why we can't or why we can or pulling us, this way or that, is that rather than fight it, we can't fight it doesn't really work to fight ourselves. I've tried. We can't run from ourselves. I've really tried that one. And when we berate, when we try to suppress, try to ignore, none of these strategies work. But what we can do is that we can begin to invite ourselves to tea, those parts of ourselves to tea, to listen and to just see what's going on. Sit down. What's happening? We can get so much information when we allow ourselves to listen to the parts of us that are trying to cause a ruckus. And there's a difference in listening and then letting it take the driver's seat. So there's a big difference there. I'm going to segue just a little bit. I'll link this in the bio. There's a beautiful little piece from Elizabeth Gilbert, who is writing a letter to her fear. And it's about her creative process and about how her fear is always saying all of these different things about why she can't do it. And she's tried a zillion ways to mitigate it. And eventually was like, fear. And she had like her fear like personified of like, get in the car. You cannot drive my car, but you can ride in the passenger seat. So essentially what she's saying is that she couldn't get rid of her fear, but she could allow it to be there. yet not allow it to take control. And that's essentially a redone story of this old story of the Buddha. One of my favorite parts about this story, I'll share it now, is that the Buddha does become enlightened. And guess what? Mara continues to show up. Throughout the rest of the suttas and the stories and the writings about the Buddha, that Mara comes back. He doesn't get to a point to where there's never any friction in the life, that there's never any voices or parts of ourselves that come up and are afraid. It's part of our humanity. It's part of our wiring. So something that's really important that I take from that is, like, one, it's not personal that we have these inner Maras. It's part of the human experience. It's part of what actually connects us to one another. And if you get tired of running and fighting and suppressing, like suppression, I always think about like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. Like, you can't do it, like one of those giant beach balls that keeps like popping up into the sides. Like, it's exhausting. And if you get tired of that, then I invite you to invite Mara to tea and see what's really going on. So I have some inquiry questions that I'll leave with you. And I'll write them, they'll be in the description as well. So I invite you just to get a cup of tea, grab your journal, take a few moments clearing breath, and sit with these questions and see what comes up. Inquiry is so powerful. It's the ability to ask ourselves hard questions, to answer them honestly, that's a whole other thing, and then to actually listen to what they have to say. So I'm looking forward to hearing how these go for you. So the first question is, what are the ways that Mara shows up for you? What are the different costumes that Mara wears? How does he show up for you? All right, question number 2. How do you feel about them? So let's see, like, take 3 of your main voices of Mara. Let's do it that way. And then how do you feel about these parts? What is your relationship to them? Judgy, critical, what's going on? Compassion? So that's question number 2. And then question number 3. Can you sense anything under Mara's masquerade? And what I mean by that is, if Mara shows up as, who do you think you are? You can't do it, the imposter. Can you sense any fear underneath that costume? So going a little bit deeper, can you sense anything underneath the show? So those are the 3 inquiries. I hope that, I hope that they lead you somewhere. Take your curiosity and compassion with you as you go. This is a tiny, tiny little taste of what my program Emerge is like, which is my online recovery, self-inquiry, absolutely beautiful, powerful course. That's my heart project. I love it. And for 8 weeks, we go deep in looking at addiction and humaning and recovery and all of these different threads. And we look at it through the lens of yoga, through the lens of Buddhism, through psychology, and neuroscience is a really big piece as well. At our traumas and our behaviors, and really how to human more skillfully. We come at it from lots of different perspectives and angles, and it's quite transformative, and I do not use that word lightly. I really actually don't like that word, but it's quite shifting, I guess I'll say. So if you're interested, click the link up here. There's information on my website, which you'll find below. If you're enjoying these classes, I think that you'll really love my membership service, CCY Studio, where you can get all of my premium content, a wide variety of classes and links, and a book club as well. If you're interested, 14-day free trial, you can click the link above or the link in the description below, and I'll meet you on your mat.